Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. We open today's show with some good news. Many of you have been very concerned over the last several months about the cowboy that sits behind home plate at Dudy Noble Field. His name is Ronnie Braswell. Had a chance to go visit with Ronnie some time ago. But, Ronnie is... become a big part of our family, as you guys are well aware. Those of you that watch from home, you're very familiar with his antics behind home plate and how he kind of rides the umpires on our behalf. I'm happy to say that Ronnie's going home for Christmas. Ronnie has been dealing with some medical issues throughout the year. Spent a lot of time in the hospital, was in kind of a step-down rehab facility for some time, then had a little bit of a setback. Got that resolved, and Ronnie heading home today. So your prayers are still coveted as the Cowboy makes a full recovery. And we hope to see him out at Dudy Noble Field to help usher in the opening of the Brian O'Connor era. Valentine's Day weekend, man. Less than 2 months away. Yeah. So I wanted to open with that because I think that's important. We are a family. You know, coaches and players at times come and go. We have some tourists in our lives. That's the reality of things. But you and I, we remain true maroon. And Ronnie is one of us. So I got the message this morning. Could not wait to share it with all of you because I know you're concerned. So Ronnie Braswell will be with his family this Christmas, have an opportunity to break bread at home, lay in his own bed, and watch some bowl games. But more importantly, just spend some time with family and have a sense of normalcy. I mean, he's not quite 100%, but well enough to go home. So wanted to share that with you because here we are 3 days from Christmas and already experiencing the magic of Christmas. So congratulations, Ronnie. We love you. We've been praying for you. We are supportive of you and your sweet wife and all of those who love you. And very grateful that all of you will have an opportunity to gather together on Christmas Day, the holiest day of the year, or one of the holiest days of the year. And I can tell you on behalf of a very grateful Mississippi State fan base. We're very grateful that we can share that bit of good news today with some people that have been among your most ardent supporters. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. We love them. We do. We love them. We've loved them since the beginning. Bulldog Burger Company, part of a great group, an Eat With Us group. Many of you are like scrambling here at the last minute, trying to find some great gift ideas. So we've got a bunch of them here on the show. But one of the things that you may want to consider is visit eatwithus.com and you can get a gift card. Get a gift card for that hard-to-buy person in your life that maybe spends some time in the greater Starkville area, the Golden Triangle, and give them a night out on you. And you can pick the gift card to be one of their many wonderful restaurants, or you can pick it just straight up Bulldog Burger Company. If you got students on campus, I can tell you they'd love to be able to have a date night or perhaps a night out with friends. It's your expense, and wouldn't we all, right? 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They will make you and everybody around you better looking. It's as simple as that. Don't mess with the science. Just eat more spring rolls, and you can live life more abundantly. Find your own favorites. The Pimentology add bacon is my favorite. I do. I love it. I do. I never expected to, but I love it. I did the Bulldog Burger Challenge, and I ate every burger on the menu. Gave you guys a review. That's my favorite one. But I like to add bacon. I need as much protein in my life as I possibly can. Got the cholesterol under control. I can do that, You get that chocolate shake to go, you can ride that ride home with a smile. But I tell you what, man, just great service, great atmosphere and ambiance. A place that has served us for many, many years. We've celebrated so many wonderful occasions at one of the eatwithus.com restaurants. And Bulldog Burger Company, of course, a longtime sponsor of ours, and we're very grateful to have them along for another year. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay. We had a good day on Saturday, as you guys are well aware, on the basketball front. We needed to win both games. We did. And to be honest with you, I thought LaSalle would put up a little bit better fight. I expected State to win handily. I didn't think it'd be by 48. But the Bulldogs just kind of jumped on them early. And there was really no comeback from that. Pretty impressive game. Because, listen, LaSalle's going to be good in their league, but as we talked about in our preview, I just didn't think they had the athletes to match up with us, and they didn't. I mean, you look at that first quarter. Both teams shot 18 times in the first quarter. Both teams made 2 3-point baskets in the first quarter. Both teams made 2 free throws in the first quarter. The difference is that Mississippi State was 10 of 18 in shooting. LaSalle was 4 of 18. The Bulldogs' length caused them some problems, and it was just kind of more of the same the rest of the way. There was not a single quarter in the game where LaSalle made more than 4 baskets. 4 in the first, 3 in the second, and then 4 apiece in the third and fourth. They shot 17 times there in the third quarter trying to shoot their way back into it. Just didn't work out. The second half, they go 1 for 9 from beyond the arc. This wasn't a great night shooting for them. Bulldogs did a great job the entire way through. State ends up shooting 48.6% from the floor in that ball game. LaSalle, just 24%. So great job defensively. Favor Nwadwazi had a double-double basically in the first quarter of play. She ends up being plus 32 for the Bulldogs. But 13 points, 10 rebounds, and then we could kind of rest her some down the stretch. She only played 24 minutes. Madison Francis pitches in 4 points, only played 14 minutes, and 1 of 3 from the floor, made a couple of free throws. But that was pretty much her game. Destiny McFall, the most minutes on the court for the Bulldogs, 6 of 12 from the floor in 35 minutes of action, 16 points, which was second on the team. Bulldogs plus 42 when she's on the floor in that ball game too. Trayana Crisp, pardon me, kind of beginning to kind of find a sense of herself too. She kind of struggled early on, had 10 points in this ball game and pulled down 10 rebounds. And then there's Jalala Lampley. 30 minutes of action, 8 of 12 from the floor. It leads the Bulldogs with 18 points in the game. We talked about how LaSalle didn't have much in the way of scoring, even though they had a pretty good record. Their leading scorer had 10 points. Ashley Connor had 10. Aris Mactoon had 9. But when you get 37 points and 2 players score 19 of them and there's 18 from everybody else, it's not going to be a good day. And it wasn't a good day. Not for them. It's a great day for us. State led by as many as 50 late in the ball game. Went on a 13-0 scoring run in the second to really kind of remove all doubt about this game. State scored 31 points off turnovers, had 46 points in the paint, 16 second chance points, 21 on the break, 32 off the bench. It pretty much went to script other than the fact that we just didn't think State would score maybe with the level of proficiency they did. But, man, it was 42-20 at the break. The game is over. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. And then State actually outscores them in the fourth period 25-8. And Sam did a good job kind of clearing out the bench there and giving plenty of people to get some opportunities to get some playing time. So great win for the Bulldogs. And as you guys are aware by now, we're still going to keep talking about that Texas Tech loss because that's all we have. But your Bulldogs 12-1 right now, 12-1. And they will wrap up the non-conference portion of the schedule on Sunday. Of course, we've got the holiday week off on the men's and the women's side. We'll take on Samford. We'll talk more about that on Friday's show. And just to kind of give you a programming note as well, going to be gone this weekend. And so your New Year's Day show may be like the next post-holiday show, right? So we'll get through today, we'll get Christmas Eve, we'll get Friday, and then we're going to take a little time as a family this weekend. And then I'll get back in time to get you something on New Year's Eve before I leave to go to Charlotte to cover Mississippi State's bowl game against Wake Forest in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So we'll preview more of the Samford Bulldogs on the Friday show. But just be mindful, you may not get a show Monday. It may come on Tuesday. We'll see how things progress. You never know. You never know what's going to happen in life. You never know how things are going to work out. On the men's side of things, and yes, we expected to win this game. State was kind of a slight favorite in the game over Memphis. And it kind of went pretty much as Vegas expected. It was a very, very close game, and then State made shots and got stops late to win the game. But there were some times in this game it got a little ragged. I think you all guys are kind of aware of that. Memphis drops to 4-7 on the year. State up 4 at the break, and then we outscored them by 1 in the second half to win the game 71-66. I don't know if any shot was bigger than the big three-point basket late when Hub had to evade Epps and kind of get around him and fire up a shot with the shot clock winding down. I think that was one of those moments where we felt like, you know what, it's our game to win. Our game to win. And we'll take a quick look back at the last couple of minutes because it was one of those things, if you were like me, I was like, man, we cannot afford to lose this game, guys. We got to find a way to get it done. Not that they need you and I to remind them. But we rarely got separation, in this game. And give Penny Hardaway a lot of credit. I mean, they've had some injuries this year. They'll get some people back, hopefully after the holidays, and we need them to. It'll help us in the net. But, man, you look up around the 8-minute mark, State's down 3. You think, well, plenty of time to go. Well, of course, it's a seesaw affair down the stretch. As we get under 7 minutes, State's up 2. They tie it at the 6-minute mark. And as we get to under 5, State is down 1. Jaden Epps makes a jumper right at the just under 5 minutes to cut it from 3 down to 1. We had that whole problem with the scoreboard, too. We got that fixed. State takes a lead and pulls that down under 3 minutes. Hub makes a couple free throws to make it a 3-point game, 61-58. And then, what do you know? You foul when you don't need to. They make both free throws. It is a 1-point game as Josh hits that big 3-point basket to put State up 4, and you just kind of feel like right here we're going to be okay. Memphis did not go quietly into the good night. Curtis Givens III, who I thought had a really good game for Memphis, he rams home a 3 in the words of Jack Crystal to make it a 1-point ball game. They end up fouling Sean Jones. He makes 1 of 2, and then Hub gets a steal. And we get it out to Jones, who heaves it home to make it a 4-point game at 67-63, right at a minute to play. And then we get another kind of a snowbird layup here. Sean Jones, nice play there to make it a 6-point game as we approach 30 seconds. And then Givens again refuses to give up, makes another 3-point basket. So we're going to have to kind of win this thing at the line. Fortunately, we're able to do so. They have no choice but then to foul Hub, and he makes both baskets, makes it a 5-point game with 15 seconds. And then Givens takes one final desperation 3 with 10 seconds to go, and Johns picks it up. And to the credit of the Memphis staff, there's no point in prolonging the inevitable. They choose not to foul, and the Bulldogs run it out. And again, so Bulldogs now won 3 in a row. And Chris Jans continues to say we're just going to kind of tinker and figure this thing out as we go. And maybe perhaps we have. We talked about maybe that Utah game would be a bit of a turning point for us, and perhaps it has been. Curtis Givens III, we spoke about him earlier, 18 points in 22 minutes of action to lead the Tigers. On the Mississippi State side of things, Jaden Epps with 19 points, Josh Hubbard with 17, none bigger than those 3 late. Sean Jones has 9 points, pulls down 5 rebounds. Quincy Ballard, 8 off the glass, but just 5 points for him. Serge Makara, just 4 points for him. Need him to kind of get things going. He was in the starting lineup. Achor had a really big basket and an and-one situation when State really needed to have it. Jabari McGee, just 20 minutes and just 6 points. Jamarian Davis had a couple of big plays defensively and a couple of big boards. Scores just 3 points, but it's pretty safe to say he is going to be a big part of things for us as we kind of move forward here. Bulldogs didn't shoot it exceptionally well, just 37% from the field and 29 from beyond the arc. State 9 of 31 in three-point baskets. We made 11 of our 16 free throws. Could have done a little bit better job to kind of make that thing a little bit more comfortable late. But nevertheless, it is a win. And again, our third straight win. And like the ladies, the men have the Christmas week off. Bulldogs back in action to wrap up non-conference scheduling on December 29th. That's Monday, a week from today, 6:30 p.m. against Alabama State. We'll preview that game as we get into the weekend. Maybe we do it Friday. Maybe we'll do it Monday. We'll just kind of see how things kind of flesh out for us. It kind of depends on where your good friend and host is. And I'm going to spend some time with the kids. I'm not going to feel guilty about that. But that's going to be, again, a game that State should win. And so you feel like you can extend this winning streak to 4 and be 8-5 coming out of non-conference. And we knew it was going to be a bit of a challenging non-conference, but we also expected to win some games that we didn't. Certainly the San Francisco game. There's a couple others you just kind of look back and you're like, you know what, we really needed to handle that a little bit better. But maybe we're learning and kind of coming together as a team. You know how well coached your team is. You know what Chris Jans has done historically. And, of course, here at Mississippi State, this gets us to the NCAA tournament. But what's interesting, kind of looking at, what else there is. Like right now, Mississippi State and Ole Miss have the worst record in the Southeastern Conference right now. Yeah, we do. And, that's not where either of us wanted to be. We're 7-5. They're 7-5. South Carolina is 7-4. And then you've got a run of 8-4 teams. You got Texas, Kentucky, Florida, Auburn. Then Oklahoma's 8-3. A&M, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Alabama all 9-3. And then you kind of get into the upper echelon of the conference. Missouri 10-2, LSU 10-1, Georgia 11-1. Vanderbilt is 12-0. Now, what do we really know about anybody at this point? Not much. I mean, how many times have we seen Arkansas go undefeated or have one loss in non-conference only to tank in SEC play? And they're not unique in that respect. It happens to a lot of people. But a lot's going to change in this first month of conference play, and we're going to get a better idea of kind of what we have, and maybe we're beginning to find some identity. And we obviously know that Epps can kind of help carry the load a little bit scoring. We're just going to need more out of post play. And that's been an issue kind of really since Tolu left. And Tolu at times would have his moments, and other times, you do that entry pass down to him and he'd fumbled out of bounds. So we're going to need somebody to kind of step up and provide some offense and not just be a rebounder and a putback guy down low. Got to find a consistent third scorer, and that's the challenge for every program around the country. But I think when you look at where we are and maybe where we thought we'd be, there is a pretty big variance between the two. So, we'll get going here sooner rather than later. But 7-5 again, not what we expected to be. But the reality of it is we are playing better as of late. And so maybe that gives us some confidence as we get ready to head to Austin, Texas on January the 3rd. That'll be your SEC opener. For those of you in the greater Austin or the South Texas area, we encourage you to go out. Of course, the Bulldogs football team will play on the 2nd, and you guys can get up and travel to UT and go cheer on the Bulldogs. And, we'll see how things progress from there. But, so good Saturday, and it's interesting this week. We're not going to have a lot of media availability, not expected to have any football media availability until the weekend, and that might actually go into Sunday. Haven't heard anything about the men's or women's basketball media availability, but I suspect if we do get something, it will be later in the week, possibly the weekend itself. And so, we're having to kind of scratch and claw a little bit over at genespage.com to hit our content plan. We have one every day. It's not one of these situations where we just kind of wake up and say, I think I'll write something. I wake up every day and I say, I get to write something because I love writing. I love covering Mississippi State. So some interesting stories that are available to all readers, whether you are a subscriber or not. I caught up with Jake Mangum last night. Got a short interview with Jake, just his reaction to the trade. And he is super excited to head to Pittsburgh. And I think about that too. That's a young team that had some real challenges offensively last year. And so they go get Lowe and they go get Jake, and then they bring in some other pitching. But you got Paul Skeens as your ace, and I think the way that Paul Skeens is kind of wired to compete, I think he and Jake Mangum will get along exceptionally well. And Jake says it may not just be center. He's going to play some left, and he's excited to get down there around the 1st of February and kind of show them what he can do. They traded for him, right? I mean, he's part of a 3-team deal. I guess it had 6 players involved when it's all said and done. So Jake giving some exclusive comments to your good friend and host over at genespage.com. And then this morning we published a story. I caught up with Vic Ballard. You guys remember Vic, right? Don't you love Vic? You talk about a guy that played exceptionally hard. I remember when he committed to us, we beat out South Florida to get him. I think that's right. South Florida is who we beat to get him. And people were like, well, Steve, I just don't know. And then he ends up being one of the more beloved running backs of this generation. Well, Vic was the MVP of the Music City Bowl in 2011 on December 30th in Nashville when State beat Wake Forest in the first ever meeting between the two schools. So I reached out to Vic yesterday and said, hey, man, I'd like to do a story with this. And I said, look, we can do it tomorrow. We can do it tonight. I don't want to hit you right now because you probably need some time to kind of, think about things. We agreed to do it this morning. He ends up, kind of hitting me up last night. And he goes, I figured somebody would call me. And I think to myself, there's not a lot of people still on the beat that were around back then that don't know our history. It's a few guys that do. But it was great to catch up with Vic. He's working as a engineer with Lockheed Martin now. Out of football, of course, as you guys know. He played with the Colts for a little while and got injured and then basically spent 2 years on IR, got released, signed with the Saints, and then was quickly released from a futures contract there. But, that's free too. And just him kind of recounting what it was like and what the bowl game meant to him and to his teammates. And lots changed since then. We've introduced NIL compensation, all this kind of stuff. And, back in those days, guys just didn't opt out for the draft. It was a pretty rare thing. Guys had a real sense of camaraderie because they all kind of came up together. Many of them played high school football against each other. They were recruiting classmates together. And so they just kind of rose up the ranks together. And so there was a bond that I think in many respects maybe doesn't exist in a lot of programs today. You go out and you sign a bunch of guys out of the portal. They may come in and be good teammates for you, but there is not the same level of brotherhood for those guys. And I don't want to paint with a broad brush there, but you got to think, Vic Ballard, a guy from Pascagoula, Mississippi, a guy that was recruited by Mississippi State out of high school, had to go to Gulf Coast, ends up coming back, and Dan Mullen, of course, prioritized in-state recruiting. And so he got to play with some guys that he knew from the All-Star games, the guys that he played against on Friday night. And so those guys kind of came together. And what's interesting is guys from that era still have a group text. And he shared that with me. I knew Tobias Smith was in it because Tobias had called me about some stuff a while back. But Tobias, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slade, Jonathan Banks, a bunch of guys that are in that group remain in contact in a group text, and they spend a lot of time talking about Mississippi State football. Doesn't that fire you up a little bit? To know that guys that we hold in such high esteem are still kind of keeping up with things. Even some of our NFL dogs, they stay connected to each other and to the program, through a group text. And Vic said there's some days he can't watch the game, and all he's got to do is go jump in his group text, and everybody's posting all the highlights and things like that. And so I think all of that is important. I think we've got to do a good job. I think Jeff Lebby probably needs to reach out to some of those guys and get them back on campus and begin to kind of bridge maybe a gap between all of them. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but Jeff Lebby doesn't know those guys. Those guys don't know Jeff Lebby. They may know his reputation and vice versa. But I think we got to do a good job of getting those guys back to campus. And, Fletcher Cox, potentially a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Darius Slay could be as well. Those are things you think about. Chris Jones certainly expected to be. We don't have anybody in a Pro Football Hall of Fame. Maybe you didn't know that. And so this generation, as I was typing those names that played on that defense, that 2011 team, I'm going to run them back for you. And it's almost like we took it for granted, the kind of talent that we had on that defense. And we talked about Dan Mullen and offense and things like that. We're going to spread the fun. Man, when I started typing these names out, I was like, my gosh, we had a lot of guys on that team that went on to play some significant football in life. And so I'm going to run these down for you real quickly because I'm sure you're going to feel the same way that I did. So that defense, Jonathan Banks, who won the Thorpe, played pro ball. Josh Boyd played pro ball. Tevez Calhoun, a fan favorite, MVP on the Mississippi side of the Miss Al All-Star game that year, played pro ball. Fletcher Cox speaks for itself. Caleb Ewells played pro ball. Bernard McKinney played pro ball. Charles Mitchell, pro. Darius Slay still played. Deontay Skinner played. Preston Smith still played. And we could kind of go on and on. But when you've got that kind of nucleus of talent, you better win some games. And it's crazy to go back and think, how did we only win 7 games that year? We won 9 the year before. And it's almost ridiculous to go back. Now, every game we lost that year was to a top 25 team, but you go back and begin to think, it's almost coaching malpractice to think that we didn't do better. But the thing that I think about is, well, where is that defensive talent now? What are we doing to kind of further that reputation? What are we doing to getting back to, the psycho defense, I guess I would say. Not that I want to bring Jeff Collins back. I wouldn't be against it, but I'm not advocating for that. But my point being is that we had some really good defenses back then that produced some big-time players. And many of those guys were products of Mississippi high schools. Darius Slay played Mississippi junior college ball. He was out of Brunswick, Georgia, but came here and, again, remains connected and has been back on campus a few times. And, as you begin to kind of work through all this stuff, I think one of the things that made Dan Mullen so good at Mississippi State is that Dan was such a good offensive football coach that understood that you need to put some great athletes on defense. And fortunately, he came along at a time when we had a very good run of defensive linemen within this state, and the Bulldogs got more than their fair share. I would say for maybe 5-6 years there, maybe the only guy that we didn't get in-state was Benito Jones from Wayne County that went to Ole Miss. And that's a guy that grew up on a farm and rode horses, and why he didn't come here kind of remains a mystery, right? But all that I understood, State had a great run, and Vic Ballard was a big part of that. And those are the kinds of things that's fun to write, man. And, Vic's like, man, thanks so much for remembering and thanks for calling. I'm like, how could I forget, man? I think sometimes those guys get off campus and maybe get a little bit detached, from the day-to-day thing like you and I are. And they forget what they mean to us. And I told Vic last night, I said, dude, you always have a home here. Always. You've always got family here in Starkville. He goes, I need to get back there and show my face. Yes, you do, Vic. Yes, you do. Be sure and check those articles out for free. And that's just some of the quality content that we provide at genespage.com. Time is running out on our special. You can get an annual subscription for 50% off. Now, if you don't need the discount, I would encourage you to just kind of sign up without the promo code, Because if you're a full paying subscriber, you get the benefit of the Paramount Plus streaming platform as part of your subscription. And you use the same login credentials that you would use to log in on our site as you do on Paramount. I watched the new episode of Landman last night. It was great, and I love the fact that Sam Elliott is now a part of this cast. Love it, man. And for those of you that have seen it, the scene when Billy Bob Thornton and Sam Elliott are at the stalls, like after they have the there's a problem. And I won't give it away. I won't give no spoilers. But there's a scene when those two are out there just kind of talking as father and son that was very special. Very, very, very special. I think in many respects it kind of humanized both of them. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'd encourage you to do it. It's one of the greatest benefits, in addition to getting the best coverage in the history of Mississippi State University. When you're a full paid member of genespage.com, you get the Paramount Plus streaming platform for free. How about that? So if you take advantage of 50% off, you got to wait a year to get your free Paramount. So that's maybe something you consider. So it's up to you. If you want to save the money and you don't care about streaming, cool. Just take advantage of the 50% off sale. It'll be a great late Christmas gift for somebody. But if you want Paramount Plus, just don't use the promo code. And that makes you eligible immediately to get access to both the 247 Sports Network and also the Paramount Plus streaming platform. It is now time for our Close with Blair Player of the Day. You guys know who Blair Chandler is, right? Visit closewithblair.com. You learn more information about the services available to you. He now runs his own Fairway Mortgage outfit. His phone number, 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Save that number in your phone as Mortgage Guy, right? You never know when you may need him. Life may throw you a curveball. Perhaps you got to move back closer to home and take care of family. Maybe you got a job change, a relationship change. Let Blair Chandler do some of the heavy lifting for you. There's no point in overthinking that. Get that pre-qualification letter, kids. That's a life hack nobody ever tells you about. I tell you, because it's going to send your real estate agent into orbit, getting you into a new home. Several Boneyard listeners have closed with Blair. That's the name, closewithblair.com. Get his 25 years of experience and expertise working for you. He can be your advocate with underwriting. He knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance of approval. And you know what? Even if you're not quite ready, he can help you get ready. Important that you know that. Closewithblair.com. Be sure and check him out today. All right, your Close with Blair Player of the Day is Destiny McFall of the Mississippi State women's basketball team. And I think she holds the distinction of being the first or second female athlete that we've named. I think we may have done it in soccer one time, I think. But Destiny McFall has been really, in many respects, a godsend to Mississippi State women's basketball. Of course, leads Mississippi State in scoring more nights than not, and is a real leader and kind of a floor general for Coach Sam Purcell's team. And this team, in many respects, is going to kind of ride her back, not in the way that we do Josh Hubbard. Obviously, there's a little more balanced scoring on the women's side right now, but one of the reasons that we are where we are record-wise in women's basketball is because of the play of Destiny McFall. So she is your Close with Blair Player of the Day. Time for today's Top 10 list. By request. Brought to you by Calido Guitars. That's Calido Guitars.com. That is your Mississippi State stringed instrument store. Expansive showroom down in Lake Jackson, Texas, just south of Houston. Be sure and check them out next time you're in town. It's probably worth the drive if you're in that area. If you can't make it down there to check them out, I'm going to give you a promo code. It's going to help you. You can use it in person. You can use it over the phone. You can use it online. It's BSR. You know it well. Whether you're looking for a new instrument, a case, gig bags, cables, strings, everything you need to be a better guitar player you can find. And maybe you're a beginner. You say, Steve, I don't want to make a big investment. Well, you can find a beginner guitar at CalidoGuitars.com. If you're a person like me that maybe just wants to kind of upgrade your rig, you can do that too. And maybe you think, Steve, I've become so comfortable playing guitar, I'm ready. I'm ready for a big time guitar. I'm ready for like a Joe Satt signature. Yeah, you can find that at KalitoGuitars.com. Now, that promo code that I gave you earlier, BSR, entitles you to several discounts. It gets you a 10% Ken Folks discount off their already low price. It gets you free shipping. It gets you no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. In addition to that, they're going to make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund based on your purchase price. Man, everybody wins. A Mississippi State owned and operated business wins. You win, and Mississippi State wins. I wish more businesses were so motivated to be a part of a promotion like this. And it's not just a Christmas thing, man. You can use that promo code all year long. So maybe you get some Christmas money and you're going to pull that together to upgrade your guitar or your guitar equipment. Be sure and use that promo code. And when you call, chances are you're going to speak to Daniel, who I've met. We broke bread and kind of brought this partnership to be. And it's been great. I own a guitar and a guitar stand from Kalito Guitars so I can give you my personal endorsement, not just of the quality of instrument, but the quality of service. And that means so much to me because quality customer service has become kind of difficult to find, as you guys are aware. You're going to get down home. Quality, expertise, and exemplary customer service from your friends at KalitoGuitars.com. Okay, so Tara reaches out and says, Steve, you and I have similar musical interests. I would like to know, what are 10 albums that you don't think you could live without? And I can tell you this is difficult because that list is a lot longer than 10. And you kind of know my policy. Like when we put these composite lists together, you can't have 2 songs or 2 albums from the same artist. And so that made it even more difficult to pare down. Now, one of my favorite albums of all time didn't make the list. And that's Operation Mindcrime from Queensryche. Now, I'm going to tell you why. When I sit down and listen to that, I listen to it in its entirety from start to finish. Like I don't skip around because I love all the in-between stuff because it's basically a concept album that tells a story. And so all the little asides in between the songs make it such a wonderful ride. If you've never done that, if you've got like an hour to spend, an hour, maybe 2 minutes, you got a drive to make and you just want to kind of zone out, maybe turn your phone off a little bit, this is the album for you. If you like rock music and if you like the theater aspect of it, this is a great one. And I have probably listened to this album 500 times from start to finish. A lot of times when I travel, I put this thing on just because I love it so much. And listen, I've listened to Mindcrime 2 and I like it. I don't love it as much as Mindcrime 1. So that's one of those that I wanted to kind of give a special honorable mention to. And there's several other albums from some of the artists mentioned that I love, but I just felt like this is the way to go. All right, number 10, and this is really not in any particular order. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling on the day. Number 10, and I recently finished up the book, My Angry Pen. And if you're a fan of Alice in Chains and Lane Staley, I would encourage you to check it out. It's not exploitive. Like I was a little worried about that. I didn't want it to be like a cash grab. You know, I don't mind helping the Lane Staley Foundation. I've donated money to them before and gotten a couple T-shirts that I wear proudly. But I was a little worried that it may be a little bit too close to home and that there may be some the innermost thinkings of one Lane Staley during his demise that was going to be released, only to find out that a lot of that stuff got stolen, which is a shame. And if you took it, shame on you. But I'm an Alice in Chains freak. I love it. And if you go float, I'm gonna move the book up there. I've already read it. It's basically kind of a collection of testimonials, and there's a lot of lyric sheets and things like that in there. But I want you guys to enjoy it too. I think you should buy it. It may be a great post-Christmas gift for you. But I'm going to go with Alice in Chains. Many of you are expecting me to go with Dirt. I'm not. I'm going to go with Facelift. I love them both. And I didn't love Jar of Flies initially. And then the more I warmed to it, I'll be honest with you, when they did the Jar of Flies thing, I said, man, these guys are selling out for this MTV Unplugged thing. I don't like it. And then as I began to give it a chance, I absolutely love it. I've got a Jar of Flies tattoo on my left elbow. Love the album. And of course, the Alice in Chains Unplugged, I think, is the best one. I'm biased, but that's the case. But we're going to go with Man in a Box. A lot of these songs are going to be hits. A lot of them. Not all of them, a lot of them. But Man in a Box off Facelift. Because I think, and this will sound sacrilegious to some of you, I think that Facelift doesn't have any skips. I think on Dirt there are a couple. There are a couple. I listen to them. But there are sometimes, too, that I'm just kind of ready to get to the next one. And you think, Steve, well, you just got, Angry Chair and Rooster and Them Bones and Wood, of course. But I go back to Alice in Chains and Facelift, and it's Bleed the Freak and We Die Young. And I just think the guitar on that is just ripping. Number 9, and I've shared with you guys before, I think I was probably among the first 100 people east of the Mississippi to have a bootleg of this early album, the demos from this album. A friend of mine in music said, I think you'll really enjoy this, and he was right. And little did we know it was going to be a legendary album. We're talking 9 Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine. I'm going to go a deeper cut right here. You're thinking I'm going like Head Like a Hole or Terrible. No, I'm not doing that. We're going with Sid. If I ever cover anything off this album, that's the song that I want to cover. And so if you know somebody that's into industrial music that could work with me, let's put them together. Most everybody I know is in country music around here these days. And so kind of careful with who I work with. And I got to get the vocals back in shape. And I might be able to pull that off a little bit better. Number 8, kind of sticking with similar genres, it's Depeche Mode's Violator album. I absolutely love it. Now, and I'll be honest with you, probably my least favorite song on the album is Enjoy the Silence, which was the lead single off the album. But you get a little deeper into this thing. You get Halo, and you get Policy of Truth, and you get Personal Jesus. And there was a time in my life I was going to get that tattooed on my arms, like reach out, touch faith. Like reach out on the right arm and then touch faith. I was going to do it. I didn't do it. There's some times I wish I would have. Number 7. If I was ranking them, this would be higher on the list. I just kind of did these off the top of my head. This is the one album from the late 80s that me and like every one of my regular friends had. Because you know how it is back in those days. I mean, you had to go cut grass to buy albums, and you kind of traded back and forth. And you're like, hey, I'll go dub a copy of this on like a Maxell cassette, dual cassette player or something. But this is the one where everybody had to have their own original copy, and it's Tesla's The Great Radio Controversy. I don't think Tesla has ever had a bad album. I like some more than others. And we're going to go with Love Song off Controversy. And again, that album, start to finish, absolutely no skips. All right, number 6. I remember where I was the first time I saw this video, and I thought these guys are going to have some staying power. They have. They continue to tour. Now basically it's Steven and Warren. We're talking Rat. And we're going Out of the Cellar. That's kind of the major label debut. They had the Rat EP, and they brought back from more from the EP on to Out of the Cellar. And it's Tawny Katane of Whitesnake fame. It's her leg on the EP, and it's her on the cover of the Out of the Cellar album. Maybe you didn't know that. She was dating Robin Crosby at the time. God rest his soul. A little more modern here, number 5. I've been a Shinedown fan from the beginning. I've got multiple Shinedown tattoos. I've met the band. Love these guys. I love their positivity. I love as Brent and these guys have kind of gotten sober. I love the early stuff, but I love how positive they are these days. But I'm going to go back to album number 3. Album number 3. Of course, I loved Leave a Whisper. I loved Us and Them. But what sent them into the stratosphere, pardon the pun, was the Sound of Madness album. And so we're going to go with Second Chance as your number 5 song today. Number 4, this is the last of the modern rock bands and one of my favorites. I bought the first album not knowing who it was. I had heard the lead single on Sirius XM Octane, and I said, I got to go pick this up. I don't know who the singer is. I don't know who this band is. But this album, One Day Remains from Alter Bridge, I got to go check it out. There's no skips on that one. However, my favorite Alter Bridge album, and it is one of the favorite albums of my lifetime, is Blackbird. And some of that is because a lot of the songs on there are so special to me that they kind of, there's been some Alter Bridge songs that I have listened to at my darkest points that have kind of ministered to my soul in many respects. And Miles Kennedy is married to a therapist who also kind of specializes in chemical dependency recovery. So it makes sense. There's a lot of stuff in here. But the original album, One Day Remains, was basically music written for a Creed album. And then Scott Stapp and Mark Tremonti and those guys kind of had a parting of the ways. And so they hired Miles Kennedy, put a new name on the band, and it was great. And I love so much of that. Like, Shed My Skin and The End Is Near. I love all that stuff. And I love what they've done with the orchestra. If you haven't listened to that, you should. But Miles Kennedy was a big part of the songwriting process on Blackbird. And that changes so much for me because I think it freed Mark Tremonti up to be even better on guitar, if that's possible. We're going to go with Watch Over You from Alter Bridge as your number 4 track. And that's a song that's very, very special to me. That song is about addiction. And there have been times in my life I have been the protagonist and the antagonist in that song. And even to this day, even though I've heard it thousands of times, there are sometimes it brings a lump in my throat and tears to my eyes as I think about those that still suffer. All right, number 3. Not a very big catalog, but man, and maybe it's because of the point in my life that I found this album. It was released. Everybody knew when Skid Row hit the scene with that self-titled album. They're like, well, these guys are good. Bon Jovi takes them out on the New Jersey tour, and Skid Row was great. Many of those songs that were written for that debut album were written before Sebastian Bach joined the band. Most of them. Then, when they began to work on album number 2, Slave to the Grind, Sebastian was involved in the songwriting process. And I think it is the better album. I think it is the heavier album. I think it is probably lyrically 10 times superior than the self-titled album. And I love the self-titled album, don't get me wrong. But we're going to go with Monkey Business from Skid Row at number 3. And number 2, and you would think these guys would be at number 1 because you know me so well. And one of you recently dropped off some Motley Crue socks at the spa to give to me for Christmas. Thank you for that. Wasn't expecting that. Somebody saw them out in Vegas and picked them up. I don't have them on today, but I will put them on soon. But for me, I kind of jumped on the Motley thing because of a guy named Mike Cook that was in my neighborhood. And Mike was a little bit older than me. Kind of turned me on to metal. And the Shout at the Devil album, when I first got it, kind of scared me a little bit. You know, that intro in the beginning. I go, what's this all about, you know? And then I went back after getting Shout at the Devil and bought Too Fast for Love. And, of course, I contend this. I think there are some great songs on Too Fast, but Elektra didn't put any money into the production of that album. And then it still exploded because of the quality of their live performances. But the first real Motley album where Elektra was really behind them was Shout at the Devil. So that's number 2 for me. And again, there's no skips on that album. We're going to go with Looks That Kill at number 2. Looks That Kill. Number 1. And I'm going to be honest with you, this was a tough one. It was really tough. But there was a part of me that wanted to go with Bark at the Moon. I've told you guys religiously on this show that the best Ozzy years were when Jake E. Lee was on guitar. And I know that sounds sacrilegious. I'm not saying that Jake was a better player than Randy. I'm not suggesting that. but the songs from start to finish, including the B-sides on the Jakey Lee albums, are just better. Now, that's not to say Crazy Train obviously is an iconic track, but there's a couple clunkers on Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. There's one or two on Bark at the Moon I look at and say, you know what? And that was really the coin flip for me. There's only one song on the Ultimate Sin album that I don't care for, and that's Thank God for the Bomb. There are so many other ones on that album that I love. Of course, Lightning Strikes, Killer of Giants. That's actually in my Twitter bio. And that may not make any sense to you, but it makes a lot of sense to me. But we're going to go with Shot in the Dark. That was the lead single off the Ultimate Sin album. That's your number one, Ozzy Osbourne's Ultimate Sin album at number one on the list of my top 10 albums I couldn't live without. And again, there's probably another half dozen or so that I would have to have. But these are 10 right here that I just simply really just don't want to live without. I'm very grateful that I was alive when these came out. Now, as Tara kind of framed it up, she said it from our lifetime. Like she's my age or close to my age. And I may look younger than I really am. So, there was obviously like Physical Graffiti and that stuff, came out very early in my life. John Lennon obviously had some music early in my life. But I kind of narrowly constrained this thing down to like when I began buying music. When I began buying music, these are the albums, not albums that were bought for me, albums that I bought for myself. So, Tara, I hope I've done a good job for you here, and I hope that you concur. And again, I didn't really rank them. I could, but I didn't really rank them based on how much I like them because my mood changes from time to time. Now, if you have ideas like Tara did for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. Best way to do that is to hit up our friend Roy Samanti on X, and Roy has committed himself during the holidays to get you guys caught up on Spotify. You can find Roy on X and on Spotify with the handle Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. And you can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. If you're out and about and you still got some Christmas shopping to do, stop by Campus Bookmart. They can help you find everything you need for the Bulldog fan in your life. And I can tell you on behalf of Bulldog fans everywhere, what we want for Christmas, in addition to cash, is new Mississippi State merch. And we're going to use some of that cash to buy more Mississippi State merch. So you can save us a little bit of trouble by buying us Mississippi State merch. Whether it's that fashionable new quarter zip, a button up, a pullover, or anything you need to detail out your fan cave, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. So many nice options to choose from there. I love going in there. The only thing that I don't like about it is that I don't have like a winning lottery ticket, so I can just buy it all. And I would buy some of it for you too. I would, because I love you and I want you to have a great Christmas. Make your Christmas more merrier by shopping at Campus Bookmart. And chances are, maybe after you open up all your gifts, maybe you're a gift short and you can buy yourself something. Visit Campus Bookmart next time you come to town to cheer on the Bulldogs, or visit them on the World Wide Web courtesy of Al Gore's Internet at campusbookmart.net. Use promo code BSR and get free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Okay. Little coaching news today is Mississippi State has added an assistant wide receivers coach. That's not your primary wide receivers coach, but your assistant wide receivers coach. And you say, Steve, I've never known teams to do that. Well, now that the NCAA has basically said you can have as many coaches as you want, a lot of teams are taking this route. So you have somebody that is an assistant on the field, but they also do kind of prioritize recruiting. We hired Kiwi Thompson away from Oklahoma State, a Mississippi native, to kind of help shore up our in-state recruiting efforts. And I think if we're fair, no matter how much we like Jeff Labby or love the Bulldogs, we didn't do as well in-state this year as we should have, right? We get one of the top 10 players in the state, and that's just kind of where things sit. We got to do better. We have to do better. That's about relationships. So we've gone out and hired Desmond Lindsay. Desmond Lindsay former Taylorsville Tartar, played at Jones County Junior College at the time. Now it's Jones College. We've gotten so bougie and cosmopolitan these days. It's still the Junior College of Eville. And then he went to Delta State and then began his coaching career at Mississippi Gulf Coast and then spent some time at West Alabama with Will Hall and kind of just followed Will Hall around a good bit. You know, went to West Georgia with Will, wound up at Memphis and Southern Miss. Actually did 2 tours of duty in Hattiesburg with the Golden Eagles and was part of that staff that was let go in 24. And that's an indictment more on the head coach than it is an assistant coach. But spent this past year at UTEP, and now we're bringing him back, not going to Tulane with Will Hall, which I think was maybe the expectation. But the Bulldogs get him. And so, again, much like the Keevy Thompson hire, somebody that can help us on the field, but also to kind of be more of a recruiting piece in that respect. And the fact that Desmond has basically coached within this state and recruited this state all of his coaching career, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people say, hey, well, what does this mean for the wide receiver coach? Well, the name kind of making the rounds in recent days, and really, to be fair, not any credible media reports. And that is in no way a shot at anybody that talked about this. That's not at all what I'm trying to suggest. It's just, what happens when there's not a lot of news to report. People kind of do their own research and say, hey, this guy makes sense. And so Justin Stepp at Illinois was a guy, his name began to kind of make the rounds on the message boards and dug into it. And at this point, there does not appear to be any legs to that. That's not in any way to suggest that these folks aren't great Bulldogs. They're just out there just trying to find something that kind of gives you something to talk about and say, hey, this guy would be a good fit for Mississippi State. So nobody needs to go out there and have any angst in your responses out there. I made a post just yesterday about how there's going to be at least one hire that's made after Mississippi State's bowl game, and I believe that to be the case. Would like to get one more done before the bowl game. But we're going on a holiday break starting tomorrow, and then we leave for the bowl site on the 29th. So kind of running out of time to get that done. Many have kind of worried, hey, we need to get it done before the portal. And I think ideally you'd like to get that done. But I think at the end of the day, if you know a guy is coming and you've maybe agreed to terms with him, that maybe there's some things you don't want to say just yet. You want to respect their current coaching situations. It was kind of different with Matt Brock, right? It's kind of a no-brainer, right? But there's some other guys out there that are coaching in bowl games, and so you want to respect their privacy because you start putting those things out there, and then the head coach gets asked about it in a press conference, or the coach themselves get asked about it in a press conference, and it kind of becomes a distraction to that team. So there is some nuance to all of this, and you need to remain professional, at all times. And so we're going to be working with these coaches in the years ahead. So you don't want to get off on the wrong foot, putting something out there maybe before it's ready. And so that's kind of where we are right now in a couple of spots. And if you're a subscriber to genespage.com, you kind of know a name of importance on the defensive line front. I'm not going to share that here, but there's a name that I've kind of thrown out there that is a name that continues to be mentioned in connection with the defensive line coaching position. And we'll just kind of leave that where it is. But there's a lot to all of this. And, Jeff Lebby, obviously, in a situation where, you've had 2 years, even though you got better this year, a lot of people say, hey, it's 115 in the SEC. I mean, what happens next year if they win, 5 games again? Can you promise me and my wife that we're going to be able to spend 2 Christmases in our house in Starkville? And I don't know that you can make that promise. I don't think Jeff Lebby enters the year on a hot seat next year. I don't believe that at all. But I think this is a scenario where, obviously we have got to we got to get it done. We got to win some ball games next year. We've got to make sure that the trajectory continues, right? Not the losing seasons. Like you went from 2 to 5 this year, and you got a bowl game just because of some opt-outs out there. You're going to have to earn a bowl game of your own merit next year. and you got to post a winning season, I think, to feel good about where things are headed. I think Jeff Lebby is a really good offensive-minded coach. He is still kind of learning to be a head coach. And I don't mean that to be critical. That's just an honest observation. I think most of you would agree. I'm not just going to blindly support everybody. I support every coach here as long as they're a coach at Mississippi State. That doesn't mean we can't call it as we see it, and that's kind of where we are. And so I think there's some people out there that are maybe somewhat hesitant. So you know what? I don't really know how Mississippi State as an administration feels about Jeff Lebby. They didn't extend him. He went 5-7 this year and made some progress, but they didn't extend him. So you kind of wonder how people interpret that messaging. You begin to kind of ask yourself now, if you win the bowl game, do you roll him over a year? I think I probably would, especially if I could roll it over without having to increase the buyout. Now, everybody's got agents who are going to kind of push back against that, but ultimately they'll do what their clients ask them to do. I think that's one of those things you look at, but it's kind of a catch-22. If you don't do it now, it doesn't present maybe a stable type situation for somebody that's moving their family across the country, right? And then all of a sudden you get into it, you win the bowl game. Now, if you extend him, he loses a bowl game, and all of a sudden you get crushed, right? So there's a little bit of risk reward in all of this. But the reality of it is that we have made some progress this year. Maybe not as much as we wanted, but probably as much as we expected. Because I think if we all go back and look at our preseason prognostications, most of us said 5-7, maybe 6-6 best case scenario. And then you look back and you realize we're probably 3 plays away from being 8-4. You go back and take that, touchdown catch in the final minute against Arizona State, you're 4-8, right? I mean, so it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But the reality of this is we've got to keep the train moving in the right direction. And a big part of that is staffing. It's not just recruiting. Now, the one thing that I will say is while you need to place a premium on recruiting, the recruiting model has changed a great deal, especially when it comes to the portal. Relationships are still important, but nobody is going to pick a relationship over a bigger check, especially when it's a dramatically bigger check when you're a team that hadn't won much lately. But what happens is, let's say for an example, like your director of player personnel, right? So he's up, talking to agents and say, okay, we got to go get, 3 offensive linemen. Okay, well, here's the price tag on these guys. And then once you kind of reach, a section of portal players that are in your price range, then the relationship building kind of starts. Now, of course, you had the situation last year where Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans already had a pre-existing relationship with Jeff Lebby. So, yeah, that works. But when you're having to just kind of start cold calling, you're dealing more with the agent before you even really get to the player. You may reach out to them, and then they're going to kind of refer you to their agent. They may say, hey, coach, thanks for reaching out. Here's who my agent is, blah, blah, blah. But we don't want to waste our head coach's time talking to players that want more than we're willing to pay. And that's not about going cheap. I'll give you a great example. A guy from my hometown, Jaheim Otis. Love him, love his family. And as soon as he went in the portal out of Alabama, State and Ole Miss both were right there in the mix. But the next thing you know, the price to get him was so incredibly inflated. Both teams said, you know what, you don't get enough juice for the squeeze here. We're going to go cast our hooks in other waters. And that's what happened. He lands at Colorado, doesn't have a good year. Now he's back in the portal. You don't see people on message boards now kind of clamoring, hey, let's go get him. And there are a bunch of guys from Mississippi that were kind of encouraged to go out of state that all of a sudden are in the portal. And maybe that serves to our benefit. Maybe we get guys that want to come back home, and that is something that we can kind of prioritize in the portal. Now, we're not just going to go out there and grab Mississippi kids. I'm a guy that believes in Mississippi first. But when it comes to portal stuff, you got to go get the best player available. You got to get the best player that is the best fit for you for the amount of money you're willing to invest in certain position groups. You can't just say, hey, this kid's from Mississippi, let's go get him. There's a lot of those kids that left the state for a reason. And there's a couple of those guys that are recently in the portal that State nor Ole Miss really pushed in the first place. And if they're back in the portal, what has changed in their situation that would maybe suggest they're a better prospect today than they were when you passed on them in the first place. Now, I do expect Mississippi State to host some players basically as soon as we get back from the bowl game. Yeah, the portal opens on the 2nd. That's a Friday. Yeah, I expect to have portal visitors here on Saturday and Sunday. That's how quick this thing has got to move. So you got people behind the scenes already doing their due diligence, right? Watching film, cutting guys up, kind of figuring out where these guys are going to fit price-wise. And so we can hit the ground running on that first day of contact. And so and that's game day for us, right? We're going to be playing at 7 o'clock that night. So we're going to have to allocate some time on game day to do some portal recruiting right out of the gate. And that's where your support staff's got to be huge for you. And so understand, as soon as we get back from the bowl game, we're going to be already working on portal stuff. We're going to be extending offers on January 2nd. So, as soon as guys announce they're in the portal or they're officially entered into the portal, these offers are going to start pouring in. And it's going to be because of the fact that your staff and others have already done their homework. People aren't just kind of sitting around waiting to see who all goes in on January 2nd. There are some guys that won't make a public declaration, but they've already instructed their agent of their intention to transfer. They may have already told their staff at their respective school they're intending to transfer. So the word is kind of out there, but maybe not out there publicly, at least not in the social media sphere. So nobody's flying into this thing blind, and if you are, it's your own fault. But be prepared that we're going to celebrate a bowl victory, hopefully, and then we're going to go right to work on the portal. Right to work. And there's going to be a lot of guys that pop up, and you're going to have guys on campus that are visiting, and it's going to be a very, very busy couple of days for us. The good thing is we got a big staff, so we'll have some people back here at home base and others out in Charlotte. And so they can kind of keep you abreast. Dave and I'll be in Charlotte, but Jacob and Rion and the other staff will be able to kind of keep you abreast of kind of what's going on. And we'll be in constant communication with them as we make the trip back. And chances are after that bowl game, I'm going to go as far as I can go to get back just because of the fact I know how hectic things are going to be. Not going to kill myself, but, we're not just going to go take a vacation to Charlotte. We're not going to hang out there and go take out a Panthers game. That's not at all what we're looking to do. We're trying to go get things done and have an opportunity to get back home and get back to work because January is going to be a very important month for Mississippi State football. The quality of our January will determine the quality of our November, right? So we work hard, we have a plan, we execute that at a high level in January, then we're going to be really happy with where we are in November because we're going to be very reliant on some of these portal guys, as you guys know. And part of that is player retention. We got some guys on the fence right now. I think all that's going to work out, but I can't say for sure. This time last year, we were thinking Anthony Evans was going to be back. And then ultimately he decides to go back to the state of Missouri. And so there are always things that happen, and you got to be prepared for anything. You just can't fall in love with anything and feel like you're married to it. You got to be ready to stick and move. But ultimately, there are some guys, too, that are kind of negotiating kind of hard right now. You kind of get the convenience tax. It's like, well, hey, I'm already here, and so maybe you got to pay me a little bit more to stay. I may be willing to take a little bit more to go, a little less to go. And so, when an agent knows that your team needs a player, especially when it's your player, they're going to run the price up on you a little bit because they understand what that would do to your program. Not just from an on-the-field standpoint, but from a PR standpoint, just like we went back to in baseball. When all of that started bubbling up about Ace Reese, every one of us that were paying attention said the last thing we can afford to have happen is we go out and spend all this money and we get Brian O'Connor and his staff here and we have this great celebration and then our best returning offensive player goes in the portal. We can't let that happen. And we didn't. So there's some situations here on the football side where we're going to have to kind of step up and take a similar tact. That's important to understand. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. The best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, if you're bringing a large group to town, and you certainly should. You've seen it on TV and in movies and things like that. You think, man, wouldn't that be great to get everybody under one roof? We're doing it this weekend. We're not doing it at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. We're taking a little bit of a trip, but we're going to have everybody together under one roof, all the kids, all the grandkids, and we're going to just stay up and order food and play games and watch movies and just be a family. How many times have you thought about, man, I wish we had more time? Make the time. Okay, make the time. You be the linchpin in your friend or family group, and you go contact the folks at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse and begin to kind of ask, what is the availability? And then you start making some plans. If you're just going to wait around for everybody else to do it, it's never going to happen. So Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate. You can peruse all the amenities of all the great things available to you and your guests, the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, which is fabulous, the fire pit area, which is handy this time of year, 6 bedrooms, 2, soon to be 3 baths, and plenty of parking. That's one of the things you run into when you're traveling with groups. Sometimes it's difficult to find places to park, and you got to worry about your car. Not here. Everybody can park in the expansive parking lot. It was the old renovated country club out past the Highlands, the clubhouse there. That's where you're staying. Yeah, super cool, right? As part of that Google search, you're going to see some booking options. You can go through Airbnb or VRBO if you want to. Maybe you have a credit. But if you don't, I can give you one. Book through the Evolve website with promo code BSR10. That's beautiful Steve Robertson 10, BSR10. Gets you 10% off your stay just by listening to this show. And I understand that bookings have gone up tremendously at this wonderful establishment since they began advertising with us. And so I would encourage you to make some memories with the people you love the most at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. The best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none. All right, I want to weigh in a little bit on this DK Metcalf situation. As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I was very happy that we signed DK Metcalf. And I've always felt like once Ole Miss players get into the league and they get on your team, you can cheer for them, right? I've been invested in the Steelers my entire life. And so I was like, hey, this is great. An explosive wide receiver to replace Pickens. This is good. If you're unaware of what happened, there was an incident in the Steelers' win, kind of an improbable win. It was pretty crazy how it all ended. But DK Metcalf was kind of baited over to the crowd. And as we've learned today, it's a fan that has interacted with him before in a negative way. And I don't know all the details. Of course, there's some claims that he said some things that were untoward. And if that's the case, if that's true, the fan should be banned for life from the Detroit stadium, if not all NFL stadiums. But supposedly, he was dressed in Detroit Lions regalia. I think you can see that in the video. But he was holding a DK Metcalf jersey, one of the gold black numeraled Steelers jerseys. And I think DK went over to sign it or whatever. So it was basically bait. And they had an interaction. And then DK grabs him by the shirt and then kind of swings at him and kind of got a glancing blow in on him. It wasn't a solid shot. And so a lot of people got strong opinions about this. I think there's a lesson to be learned here, regardless of what happens long term. Now, the NFL has now suspended DK Metcalf for 2 games without pay. And based on his contract, that's over $500,000 that DK Metcalf will not get. In the event that there is a civil suit that is settled, no telling for what, that's more money, right? So, as a Steelers guy, we need DK Metcalf in uniform. We're trying to win the division. So I think there's a lesson to be learned from here for all of us, including DK Metcalf. And he should know better. He should. You can't get baited into that situation. And you certainly can't respond negatively. Like I had somebody last night in one of these threads say, well, my dad always say don't write a check you can't cash. And my question is, did your dad ever tell you that sticks and stones may break your bones, but words may never hurt me? There are some things that people say that get under your skin from time to time. but you don't resort to violence, right? You don't. And that's one of the things we've got to normalize in society again is you can walk away. You can walk away, especially when you're not evenly yoked, right? You have an interaction with a guy like that who's got a pretty cheap ticket, I would suspect, in the end zone, really on the corner of the end zone, and you're a multimillionaire, you're the target. And so there are people in life that will target you too. There are people that will say and do things to try to get under your skin. And you got to be willing to walk away, because the price you have to pay just isn't worth it. Any level of satisfaction that he may have gotten from even smacking that guy in the face, even if he gets him flush, it's not worth $500,000. It's not worth $50, in my opinion. It's not like the old days when, we got in a fight and you got charged with simple assault. You went and paid your $110 fine and just kind of moved on with life. Didn't have to go to court. You just went and paid the fine, and maybe that was just me. But at the end of the day, there's just so many things about this that I think is a teachable moment for everybody, young people included, is that this is an example of where being a real one goes wrong, because there's nothing you can do to win in that situation. Along those lines, no matter who you are, no matter what walk of life that you're a part of, there are going to be people that will always be envious of you. As I've shared many times, my dad told me the night that I graduated high school that success will make you more enemies than anything, right? One of my favorite things to tell people, and I don't have to use it as often as I used to, but somebody else shared this with me and I just kind of ran with it. It said, hey, if you've got a personal problem with me, then call me. And they goes, well, I don't have your number. Well, if you don't have my number, then you don't know me well enough to have a personal problem with me, right? There are so many things out there that we get so caught up with when it comes to competition, really everything else too, that we begin to kind of forget the human side of things. I do a lot of reading, and I need to read more. And I've got some books. I've got a stack of them. I knocked 2 of them out here a couple days ago, and I will finish up Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote probably tonight or tomorrow. And when we travel this weekend, I'll read some more too. I've got a book. A Bulldog fan, George Marks, wrote a book that I have that I got to get to. That's going to be next on my list. And then I got some musical stuff I got to read. John Corabi's biography, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, and then Dave Grohl's biography, Anthony Kiedis. I've got a stack of books I got to get through. But I read not just for entertainment, but you kind of read for phrasing to kind of shake things up. You read how kind of other people structure sentences and kind of things that they use as a writer. It's very beneficial. But I also read for knowledge. And if you've never read the book The Prophet, and it's not a very long one, and there's been millions and millions of copies of that book that have been written and read and purchased over the years. It's kind of a guide for living in many respects. And it talks a little bit about work and about love and about relationships and marriage and things like that. And it's really written on very sound biblical principles in many respects. But one of the things it talks about is love. To approach everything and everybody with love. Everything. And that is something at times that I struggle with. And it's one of the things that I want to be better at, is to look at people through the lens of love. And when I think about this situation here, clearly this Detroit Lions fan is a person that is struggling with something. And rather than go and aggravate the situation and then give them the satisfaction of getting a rise from you, it may sound a little bit manipulative, but I think maybe the way to handle that is through love and grace. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have some grit. You got to have some of that too, or people will walk all over you. But you can get something like that accomplished without putting yourself at risk, without putting your team at risk, without putting your family at risk, without hurting your bank account, right? All of those things matter in the grand scheme of things. But, one of the things it talks about too is like if you're building a house, kind of equating work and love together, then you should build that house as if you're building it for your beloved. If you are preparing a meal, you should prepare it as if it is being prepared for your beloved. Because if we take the human element out of this and think, well, this is just good enough, nothing will ever be good enough. But if everything that we do is done to the best of our ability, then we'll be rewarded for that. I'm a firm believer that you put your best foot forward and you work as hard as you can, God will bless your labor. It's just like all this coach and search stuff. Like, when you work and work and work and work and work and work and work, you kind of create your own luck. Then all of a sudden, somebody realizes you're out here searching for this and the information begins to find you. Not always, but a lot of times when you start throwing hooks in the water, people begin to hit on them. And so this time of year, we talk about how love is important every day of the year. Not just on Valentine's Day, not just at Christmas, not just at Thanksgiving. It's important every day. And I think one of the big lessons that we can learn about every aspect of that is if we loved people where they were and as they were, and not as we would have them to be, we would be happier people. And they would be happier people. I'm not saying be weak. I mean, one of the things that I share with people all the time, and when we talk about recovery, your people that love you, that truly love you, and not just say they love you, they'll tell you the truth. Truth is a part of love. And I don't just mean truth in the manner of commitment. That's important too. And I don't just mean love in a romantic way. But the people that love you will tell you the truth. The people that tell you what they want to hear, in many respects, are lovers of themselves more so than lovers of you. And what I mean by that is they just don't want to deal with the conflict. Well, I don't want to upset them, and then I got to explain myself. I would never have gotten sober, ever, if the people that loved me didn't tell me the truth. Steve, you've got a problem. If you continue to live this way, we're going to have to cut you off. We're not going to be able to have you at family functions. We're not going to be able to have you as a part of our life. We got to keep you at arm's length. Now, if the same people had told me, oh, it's not, you're not really an addict. And I had some other people that told me, maybe you just got a drinking disorder. Maybe you're just depressed. Maybe you're just this. But no, the people that love me is like, dude, you got to get it together. And it saved my life. There are other times there are people within my family that I love as much, if not more than myself. And part of that is telling them the truth. And I've had to do that as of late with some people in my family, to tell them the truth. I love you, and because I love you, this is what needs to be said. I saw this guy years ago that travels around with these dogs, and they're labs, and they're so well trained and so well behaved. And he gets them out there and he goes, hey, sit because I love you. Sit because I love you. Stay because I love you. And the lesson that I learned from that is like, he doesn't want those dogs to get injured. He doesn't want them to wander out in the road. He doesn't want them to fall off a stage. You got to take some direction. I'm giving you this direction or this advice because I love you. Not because I'm trying to be difficult or be controlling. I'm trying to give you love. I'm trying to show you the love of protection because I know more than you. I've lived longer. I've got more wisdom than you. I'm trying to save you from harm. And so many times we get so caught up thinking about, I don't want to have the awkward conversation. Well, that's not love. That's not love. That's a relationship of convenience. If you truly love people, you will tell them the truth. And it feels so good when you say it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a big fan of awkward conversations because that's the only way that we grow. That's the only way we ever get anything accomplished. If everybody just walks around on eggshells, we just kind of never really address what's between us. And recovery has taught me to be a little more direct. And there's some people in my circle that'll tell you, Steve, sometimes you can be a bit much. You can be a little bit intense. And there's some truth in that. And some of that is because I'm willing to confront the issue. There are some people that are willing to live with anything. And it's amazing what you're forced to live with when you're willing to just accept whatever happens. And I think that's where the self-love part comes in. I love myself, and this is what I'm willing to accept. And this is not what I'm willing to accept. That's love too. And so a lot of times we have this homogenized version of love, where it's about gift giving and it's about smiling and it's about everybody just kind of keeping their peace. And I would suggest to you that's probably kind of fatal fakery in many respects. What kind of relationship would we really have if we were able to talk about anything? Right? And I go back to when I coached high school baseball, and Ani was a junior, I believe. And we were talking about some stuff with the team, and he just kind of opened up and shared some things, and the kids all looked at me, expected me to be shocked. And there was a kid named Tyler Burrell, and he goes, man, Ani, you'll tell your dad anything. And Ani kind of looked at him like, well, yeah. Well, I'm his dad. And sometimes being dad means that you got to listen to some uncomfortable things and not react in a negative way. Because if you do, then the lines of communication are severed, perhaps forever. I think your children have to be able to come to you and say, hey, here's what's going on with me. Because when there is something going on with you, and you're the kind of person that's overreacted in a negative way, because maybe it's an embarrassment of you or a challenge of your parenting style, that's not love either. I love my children enough that they can tell me anything, even if we don't agree. And we may discuss it, and sometimes it may be somewhat spirited. But I'm not going to just dominate the conversation. I'm going to hear them out. It's the same thing with romantic relationships. What kind of relationship would we have if we could tell each other everything? And who's to say we won't survive the truth? I can promise you this. One of the things that I have learned in long-term recovery is that not everybody that told me they loved me did. And you know what? There's some people that I told that I loved that I probably didn't either. Especially in the romantic part of it, right? I mean, there's some people in the beginning, you kind of want to talk yourself into it, and eventually you find that it doesn't work, and by the end of it, you're just so ready to be away from each other, you can hardly stand it. But it's just so important to really articulate what real love is. And real love is not accepting everything. And acceptance is not approval. I can accept that you are the way you are, but I'm not just going to sit back and let you ruin your life. I'm not just going to sit back and let you operate thinking that I am both accepting and approving of the decisions you've made when I know that you're doing something that is detrimental to your future. That's an important aspect of it. And there are a lot of people that don't have the stones to have those conversations. And I hear it all the time. People are like, Steve, you're good in conflict. I want to avoid conflict. Well, if you want to avoid conflict, then you want to avoid serenity. You want to avoid progress. You want to avoid understanding. You want to avoid being evenly yoked with somebody else. And so I encourage you, maybe as we consider what's in front of us in the next year, is show real love. And sometimes real love is tough. And sometimes speaking your piece is difficult because you know how it's going to be received. But again, once everybody kind of gets that out there, then we can kind of move forward with some progress. Once everybody, how many times have you gone through it, like you finally have the quote argument, and you're like, I'm so glad we talked about this. I'm so glad we talked about this. So that's what real love is. Tell the truth. Come join us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. It has been an incredible month, and thank you guys so much. We had a great December last year. This December is beyond anything we ever could have expected, and we're going to make Starkville in the Golden Triangle area so much healthier and happier, just kind of one float at a time. Some of you are getting floats for Christmas and don't even know it, and we can't wait to see you. We can't wait for you to have the benefit of floating. I got a tattoo that's healing, and I can't wait to float again. I need to go float again. But I'm not going to go lay in that salt water until this tattoo's fully healed. We'll give it another few days. But I can tell you it's changed my life. And it's improved the quality of my sleep. My anxiety is so much better. All my little aches and pains. I get older. Everybody said, when you get older, you're going to have all these aches and pains. I didn't believe it, but it's true. But no matter what you're dealing with in life, or maybe you just need a break, we could probably help you at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. Dial 662-268-7601 would be a great last-minute gift. Today, we only open till 4 till 10 on Mondays, but Dana left the door open, and it was just a flood of people all day long coming in to buy floats for all of you, right? And so if you're at the end of your gift buying process and you've still got some gifts to get and you don't know what to do and you don't have time to go shop, visit TrueRest.com or just call Dana at 662-268-7601. She can get you lined up with a gift card, a package that you can give to somebody at Christmas and kind of give them the gift of True Rest. Visit DutyNobleBook.com. You get signed copies of all of my sports titles plus the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. Several of you are also getting books of mine for Christmas, and we're pumped about that. And kind of already working on the next one. And then we'll get right to work on the next one. I've taken this year off because the dude took so much out of me to write. But I'm ready. I've written 7 books, and children's book is next, and then we're going to do another Bulldog biography. And I'm excited about that. And that'll get us to 8 and 9. And then we'll see what happens from there. Life, you never know how life's going to go. When I pass away, there will be books that I have kind of kicked around in my head that I never got a chance to write. So I'm just trying to write as much as I can and make as big a contribution to the Mississippi State literary community as I possibly can. We will be back with you on Christmas Eve, and I will record that show earlier in the day, so you've got plenty of time to listen to it as you travel. And I love each and every one of you, no matter what holiday you celebrate. As a matter of fact, the 23rd is tomorrow. That is Festivus, so happy Festivus to all of you that observe. But I love you no matter if you love me back, no matter who you worship or how you worship or if you don't worship at all. But I hope that you have the best of the holiday season. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies and people can see a difference in the way we live.